Hello and welcome to Albion Obsessed. Do not adjust your dial up. It is 1997 and we're here to chat to you about the 1-1 draw against Hereford. Last week we played our last game at the Goldstone against Doncaster Rovers and we won thanks to a fantastic Stuart Storer goal. Now, the Goldstone, we wave goodbye to the stadium that's been our home since 1901. Joe, saying goodbye to the Goldstone, knowing that we take our survival to the last day. Lots of feelings going on here for Brighton fans. First of all, the Goldstone waving goodbye. How are you feeling about that, mate?
Just utterly heartbroken, to be honest, mate. As you say, it's been our home since 1901. That's a good 80 plus years. I can't do maths that quickly, I'm afraid. But yeah, as you say, it's really just a closure of a chapter, and something that we're a bit lost now. We don't know what's going to happen next. Obviously, we'll get onto the game in a minute as well. But yeah, what happens next? Exactly that. I sound lost in my voice is because I am. I just don't know what to say about it.
Certainly, hits the heart saying goodbye to the home that you've loved, and the fans obviously taking to the pitch, taking whatever they could to remind them of home. Now, Dan, that game against Doncaster where Stuart Storer scored that goal, it took the survival fight to the last day, and it just so happened on the last day against Hereford, we were playing the team that were also fighting to stay in the Football League. How does that? I mean, could you write a better fairy tale, or for our case, it's a fairy tale, but for Hereford, it's not. Well, how do you feel about taking that fight to the last day, Dan?
It's always a very hard watch. I think if you want to go to another state, especially as it was away from home, to a team but also doing exactly the same as you, trying to survive to stay in the Football League. It's very, well, the day was quite stressful itself, let alone having to fight against a team that also wants to fight against relegation to stay. It's difficult, but luckily we're the ones who survived. Obviously, unfortunately for them, they didn't really want to be in the position they were in. But if somebody has to go down, and unfortunately it was them.
Now, I don't know if either of you are superstitious, but we've never won at Hereford. In fact, previously we'd lost all 3 games. So going into that game, Joe, as Dan says, away from home, last day, all we needed was a draw and anything better, a draw or better. I don't know. Are you a superstitious football fan? Do you buy into that sort of, or we've never won at this ground, so we're not going to win today?
I do a little bit. Definitely wore my lucky pants yesterday, for sure. And my lucky socks. Took my lucky scarf. Wore my lucky shirt. So yeah, you could say I am, Tom. But yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes history just goes against you and it just keeps repeating itself. People say lightning doesn't strike twice, but it seems to when we play Hereford. Just can't break them down. And again, obviously, we didn't win, but we got the result we needed, and maybe that was the best thing is that we needed a draw. If we needed a win, I think we would have been talking about something completely different right now. But yeah, it's good that we had a little bit of hope that we could at least claw back to a draw.
Most definitely. It's funny that you mentioned about the draw, because I'm going to ask Dan about this now because, pardon me, both Brighton and Hereford, Dan, they started the crunch relegation game on 46 points. Hereford had to win. We just needed a draw. But for us, is that dangerous? Because it could make us just sit back.
It could, but luckily, we didn't need to. We just had to come into the game and just try and fight. We we did just that, and luckily we are talking about good things rather than bad.
Sorry about that, everyone. Someone just wanted to use the phone. So we were just chatting about how we started the game on 46 points with Hereford. Dan says the draw, it didn't really matter too much as long as we went out there and just held tight. Around kickoff, it was almost like a party atmosphere, wasn't it, Joe? But I think underneath that that atmosphere, there must have been a lot of tension, knowing that in 90 minutes, one way or another, our fate's going to be sealed. How did you feel waiting for that for kickoff?
Yeah, it was really strange. Traveling up here, as you say, everyone's feeling hopeful and just trying to get into a zone where you can support the lads. But obviously, we said goodbye to our home last week. And obviously, that took the emotions out of everyone, and emotions still riding high at the moment as well. It was a party atmosphere for sure. You could sense, though, underneath that all, that everyone was a little bit lost. Didn't quite know how to feel, which is a really weird. Like, I've never felt that way at a football game before, ever. And it's but everyone around you, like, I went and got a drink, and there was a guy sat down, and he was smiling and just looked like it was a normal day for him. And I said to him, how are you going about your day so calmly? And he just said, we're just going to win. We're just going to win or get the result, and it'll be fine. I wish I could feel like that. But yeah, as you say, it's a strange atmosphere.
Yeah, very peculiar indeed. But the Albion faithful were in good voice. 3,000 plus travelled up to Hereford. And Dan, it's fair to say, I think throughout most of the game, really, Hereford were the better team. Before we get on to the unfortunate own goal, did you feel within that first 20 minutes or so, it was just a matter of time before Hereford eventually put the ball in the back of the net?
Yeah, they put a lot of pressure. They put a whole lot of pressure on. They just kept bombarding the ball into the box, keep getting into the box and trying to get the ball in the net. But luckily, until that point, we kept the game on. Even after the goals we got onto, the bombardment kept coming, and it was just a worrying time because you think this could go out of sight if we didn't defend that well. So I think they should be happy with the goal we will talk about. But yeah, very, very lucky.
Hereford was certainly up for it, and you could really tell that they were fighting for survival, as were we. They were perhaps, I would say, unlucky, but I think their problem this season has been scoring. Not scoring enough goals, and we definitely saw that yesterday. Now, so let's move on to the goal then, Joe. About 20 minutes have gone, and Hereford take the lead. The ball, it's scrambling around the Albion box, and poor teenager Kerry Mayo, he diverts it into his own net. How do you think what were you feeling at the time of that goal? But also, how do you think Kerry Mayo, young teenager, how do you think he was feeling at the time as well, knowing that could be all she wrote, as it were?
Yeah, young teenager, as you say, devastating for the lad to for that to hit him and go into the net. Obviously, a young lad from Sussex as well. I'm not sure if he supports Brighton. I'm not 100% sure, but if he does, that I couldn't imagine how I would feel if I was in that situation. There wasn't much he could do about it because I think if he doesn't stretch, then who knows who could have, somebody else could have scored an own goal. You don't know. It was in his mind to go for the ball and try to clear the danger. Unfortunately for him, it's not done that. And I'm sure he just wanted the ground to swallow him up. And the 3,000 other Brighton fans in the crowd at the time as well were thinking that for sure. So yeah, it's gutting for him, but I'm just glad that we were able to get something so that wasn't written in our history books, which would have been probably the final chapter in our history books if that was the only goal of the game.
I think you're probably right there, Joe. That would have potentially been, as I say, all she wrote for the Albion. So Dan, the first half ends with Hereford just the one goal up. Lots of people at halftime feeling almost numb, but still hopeful. How were you feeling at the halftime? Did you still think that it was there? We hadn't played the best, but did you still have hope?
Especially with 1-1, you'd always have hope. But even if that first half performance was really, really bad for us, because as soon as there's a goal in there, you're back in the game. You're back. At least if we weren't in the scenario that we had to win, which would be obviously a lot more difficult, especially for the pressure on the players. But luckily, it was only a draw we needed, and it's always good to go in at 1-0, because 2-0 you're thinking you got to try and battle back from that. So obviously my feelings obviously with that, obviously that I was still hopeful. You still have a little bit of hope, but it just didn't look good. That's all.
No, I think at times in that first half, as I say, Hereford were really up for it, and they were the better team, in all honesty. But thankfully, Albion this season have had a very never say die attitude. As I say, we looked almost dead and gone earlier in the season, so to take it to the last day was in and of itself an achievement. So we come back out for the second half. It is better play from the Albion. We do look a bit better. But it does take, I suppose, a fortuitous moment for us around the hour mark. Joe, really poor keeper clearance. It comes right back at them. Maskell, his shot, he has a fantastic shot and it hits the post and the ball falls to Robbie Reinhout, who buries his chance. Just talk us through that goal, Joe, and how relieved you felt when the net bulged there.
Well, first of all, when we hit the post, I thought that was chance gone. And I think a lot of people around me thought that as well. Lots of head in the hands. Even when Reinhardt scored, I think people were still looking away. And it felt like an eternity for that ball to hit the post and then roll back out to Robbie, who's obviously tucked away, luckily for us. But yeah, as I say, it just felt like an eternity. Everything happening in complete slow motion. Just hoping that ball does roll over that line and smack you see the ripples of the net and everyone going mad. But even then, after the goal went in, you're still thinking, God, we got 25, 30 minutes left here. We could still lose the game. So even that, the nerves weren't completely gone. And you would just hope that maybe the goal would give us something extra and push on and maybe even get a winner. We know what Steve Gritt gives to this side since he's come in. He's galvanized us, and as you say, never say die attitude. And I'm just glad we fought so hard to not be 2-0, 3-0 down, because as you say, we could have been. And it was only that one goal that we needed to get back, and thank God that Robbie Reinhardt was there to pop it away.
Definitely. And very lucky that Hereford seem to have forgotten their shooting boots. Dan, just before we move on from the goal, I'd just like to come to you and ask you, how you felt. I think it's well within the realms of possibility that this goal has saved our football club. How does that make you feel?
To know a goal like that was so crucial in the end is brilliant. We knew obviously about like the short future that we're going to have to play not at home anymore, especially the home that we've had, as Joe said, for so many years. And then to be having to go to another ground far away to go and to play possibly non-league football if we lost. It's so hard to think about. And obviously now the match now being a 1-1 draw, and at this point, you start to think, well, it's just we still can't change what's coming, but at least we're still in the football league. We're still, in a chance to stay where we are and then start hopefully, you know, everything's now coming to a point where we've now got the new owners, got the new chairman, and you know we're starting looking upwards instead of downwards, and not potentially losing our football team this time, and to grow the home, hopefully to come back home properly, to you know to be home. You know, we don't want to keep going to Gillingham all those times, in order for how long it's going to be, but we just want to come home afterwards.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm glad you brought up new owner Dick Knight. He definitely seems to want to get the club back on track after the mismanagement that has happened over the last few years. I mean, I'm not going to mention their names. They don't deserve to be mentioned. And they've put the club through the ringer, and the club deserves so much more. And I have to take a moment to thank all the fans for everything they've done, the protests, Fans United, everything, because without this, without people like Dick Knight and the fans pushing and driving behind that, the protests, as I say, we could be staring down the barrel of a gun. And I don't think, non-league football, all in playing in Kent it's not going to happen, is it? And thankfully that isn't our future. Who knows what the future holds for us? But at least there's that shining light. But back to the game then. I think after our goal, I think we did look better, probably the best we'd looked throughout the game. But once again, Hereford did have their chances. I remember Agana's header. It drifted wide of the woodwork, and Ormerod had to make a really fantastic save to turn away a shot from Bradley Sanderson, who was looking decent. And then the chance, Joe, with minutes left of the half, Foster breaks through. He's practically one-on-one, and that he hits the tamest of tame efforts into the arms of the advancing keeper. Joe, that was Hereford's chance to stay in the Football League. But how fantastic was that, just to see the ball fall kindly into Ormerod's hands? The young lad, he's only, I think, 20, 21, 22. So, fantastic for him. But just, was your heart in your mouth when you saw Foster breaking down on goal?
I think my heart was in space, mate, let alone mouth. As you say, breaks through. It's happened so many times this season, giving away easy goals, and that's why we're in the position we're in. And as you say, the body's clear, because from where I am, I can't see what's going on. All I see is everyone panicking around me, the Hereford fans getting well excited, and suddenly all the body's clear in front of me. All the players clear, and Ormerod's there with the ball in his hands. And I'm thinking, how has that happened? Just how?
It's on a slight slope as well, isn't it? It's got like a slight slope. So
I think so. Can't see. Yeah, and I really think someone needs to check if he's any relation to Steve Foster or a Brighton fan, because he's literally given us a free ticket to stay in the league. Yeah, just blessed, and thank whoever the football gods obviously watching down on us that day, and I am just so thankful, because we're sat here and we're hopeful for the future, as you mentioned about the owners, of the past as well, who again we will not mention, but given the chance, they would have sold this football club for pennies. They wouldn't have given two craps about whether we're playing in Brighton, Gillingham, Sheffield, Scotland. They wouldn't care less. They couldn't care less. And I'm just so bloody proud that we can sit here today and say that this football club has a future. And for the future generations as well, I hope they look back on this game and see it as the game that saved Brighton Hove Albion. Whatever game we play in the future, I don't know what the future holds for us, but whatever game we play in the future, there will never be a game as big as this one.
No, and that was actually going to be my next question to Dan. Dan, do you ever think there will ever be a game in our club's history that will surpass this in terms of its meaning, its enormity, and what it means to us fans? Do you think we'll ever have a game like that?
I just hope that the game that we can have in the future would be just to continue to be good. We don't want to have any more of this. Going through everything we've been through. As I said earlier about the going to another county to go and watch home games, and we want to be here in Brighton. We want to be back in Sussex to be playing. As long as that is happening, whatever happens in the future would be a bonus, because potentially today, as we've all said, we could have lost our football club today. We're not today, maybe later, but being in a long league. But I don't think the enormity of the actual potential of losing the club would be unmatched in a game. Whereas maybe promotion to somewhere else and all that, it's elation for that one day, but you're still going to come and see the players, the team, every week still after that. If we lost this game, we could still obviously people still go into non-league, and then if nothing happened from that, and then also they went, sorry, the club's now gone. So then you've now got nothing really to do. So you sort of count your blessings that the club is still here, and as I say, in my opinion, I don't think anything can come close. Not anything I can think of anyway at this present moment.
No, I think you're probably right there, Dan. I don't think there will ever be a game in our club's history. We might get promoted one day. Who knows? We might even play at the top flight of English football again. But even those games, I don't think they will ever match the enormity of what we achieved like that game against Hereford. Now, Joe, just before we sort of wrap up the game here, we did have a few chances ourselves to put the game to bed and take the lead. Maskell had a fantastic breakaway. I think it was Ian Baird as well. They both squandered chances to give Brighton victory. Would that have, if possible, would that have made the last half an hour feel a bit less tense for you?
Especially towards the end of that half an hour, maybe. We seemed to be in two minds whether to go for the corner and hold what we had, or, as you say, get that goal that would have settled a lot of nerves, and it would have been a bit more comfortable. We had 2, 3, maybe even 4 chances to put that game to bed, and we could have been sat here talking about a 5-1 win, which would have been really nice. But we can't be too picky, because our football club is saved. We have a future. But yeah, it would have been nice to be that bit more comfortable. But that's the Brighton way. They've never ever made it comfortable for us, and they never will. So maybe that was the most romantic way of them doing it, just doing it the way that we know the club does it.
I think it's very well put. But in the end, we didn't need another goal, did we, Dan? Because Robbie Reinouts' goal around the 60th minute, it was enough, and the final whistle blew, and the 3,000 plus Albion fans were absolutely jubilant. Now, the riot police entered the pitch, Dan, but thankfully there was no protest. There was nothing of that sort. Just really happy fans. When that final whistle blew, Dan, can you just summarize your emotions? I know we've talked a lot about our feelings today. But how did you feel when that full-time whistle blew, knowing that we were safe at least for another season?
Very, very happy, because you just don't know the ramifications. As I say, you could try and sort of think about, like, you're sitting in non-league and potentially see how long that we would have lasted for. But then staying and still in the league, still looking, you just sort of sit there and sort of think to yourself, we're still there, we're still in the league. We've done what nobody else thought would ever be possible. You think that a lot of people were saying that that's it, we're done, that's it. That's it. They've always trouble. They're going to go down. They're just going to go, and just go, be gone. And we defied everything that everyone else wanted, and especially the previous owners wanted, because obviously they didn't care at all what happened to us. They're happy they just got no money. But luckily we showed them, we go, there is potential here. We are going to now look upwards, build something from this. Hopefully then from going to Kent and coming back to Brighton, hopefully sometime in the future, to then build something and look upwards instead of looking down and worrying about money and worrying about if we're going to go anywhere or lose the club or anything else like that. It's just happy that luckily we still got a football club we can now support, and hopefully good times will come.
I'm sure they will. Joe, again, mate, just like to get your final thoughts on that final whistle, knowing that our club, for at least for now, is safe.
Yeah, you say at least for now. And something that I was thinking whilst Dan was speaking there is, I have no doubt in my mind that there's going to be tough times for this club in the future. No doubts whatsoever, whether that be fighting to come back to Brighton, whether that be securing that deal with Gillingham to share their stadium. I don't know. But we've fought through the hardest thing that a football club can go through. We've got rid of us fans, got rid of the owners that we wanted to get rid of. We have a guy who cares and loves the football club and wants to take us forward. Any hard times that come, whether that be, as you say, if we ever get to the first division again and we get relegated, that may be considered as a hard time, but it's nothing's ever going to touch this. We hopefully will always have this football club to look at and to love and to watch and to look forward to. Yeah, final feelings at the full-time whistle. Just, you can't even put it into words. People around me falling onto their knees, head in hands, the relief that lifted, and the celebrations. You will never, ever in your life hear celebrations like it ever again. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that, really. It's just, you couldn't write it. Somebody needs to put pen to paper on a film about this football club. You just couldn't write it.
No, it's better than any story. And I think my overwhelming feelings, just pure relief, watching the news coverage and watching just the highlights, it all brings it back. And it's, as you say, sometimes it's hard to find the words. But thankfully our club, as I say, lives to fight another day. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, boys, for your thoughts on that. So let's talk about the future, because even though we are safe for another year, the club's future remains precarious. With a deal to ground share with Portsmouth falling through, we're left with the grim prospect for the 97-98 season of travelling about 150-mile round trip to Gillingham for home games. Now, the following season, we're going to finish in 23rd place in the 3rd division, this time with Doncaster dropping out of the Football League. And average home crowds are going to fall by 60% with the move to Kent, although to astonishing commitment from the fans, we recover a little bit following the following season 17th position. Then eventually, we'll come back to Brighton for the 1999-2000 season for the Withdean Stadium. A stadium thoroughly unsuitable for football. It wasn't ideal. It's going to be cold, it's going to be wet, it's going to have temporary dressing rooms, temporary stands, and a lack of cover, and a running track around it. But at least we will be back home. There'll be talks of a new ground at Falmer, and it will just be a pipe dream in 1999. But a man, Dick Knight, he'll steer our club through a really difficult period that includes a decade-long battle with planning approval that's going to require a government inquiry, and eventually it's going to require John Prescott to get involved. New owner, Tony Bloom, he's going to be a supporter since childhood, is going to fund the construction the American Express Community Stadium, which is going to open in 2011. And we're going to usher in what we will call the Amex era. After 6 campaigns in the Championship, Brighton will win promotion to the Premier League at the end of the 2016-17 season, and we're going to become a Premier League club. So the next time that you're complaining about certain players starting or not beating certain teams, remember that 25 years ago this club was on the very, very brink. To paraphrase our own Attila the Stockbroker, what a journey it has been from Hereford to here.